This site was created to worship Dios Descendente, the descending God. Images of the descending God can be found on most of the buildings here. He is depicted by an upside-down man with his hands in the diving position and his face looking towards you.
But there's the descending God. He's in a little different form, but there his head's on. You see his hands, his feet in the air. Symbols across the top of there are various stages of the corn plant. The corn is the base plant, basic alive, staff alive. And again, he's who came from above, descended, and is the staff of life. Gave us life.
Watchtower.
There's your best picture probably of the descending God.
Tulum dates back to the Classic period, between 250 and 900 AD. It is the only archaeological site in Mexico that is situated next to the sea. Like at Chichen Itza, the buildings here were aligned with the cosmos to coincide with particular events. It is interesting to note that all of the bodies buried here were buried facing the east, and this is the only site on the east coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. The building in the center of this site was designed so that light would penetrate through a hole in the wall during one day each year. The day is April 6th.
On a certain day, the light will come through when it rises. See, the sun, if it's too high, isn't going to go through either. It's going to shoot down. So it has to be positioned so that when the sun is level with that window, it's also in line here. As the earth moves around, that's only going to happen at a certain day.
Sun comes through here on the 6th of April and goes through this wall, through another wall, and into that window.
The most interesting building of all is the one that is situated at the edge of the 12-meter cliff. It is called the Temple of the Descending God, and it features on its facade 3 images. The first is an image of a man standing upright. The second is that of the descending God. And the third is empty, suggesting the Holy Ghost. Is it possible that this temple is depicting the Godhead?
The Trinity manifest. You got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Book of Mormon doesn't say, that all the Nephites were killed. It says those that didn't deny Christ and all that thing. And they will tell you that this was a Nephite city, some of those left over and so forth. What we know is from legend that there were annual pilgrimages here. There's a sock bay or a whitened highway goes from here into Coba. And then almost all the roads all over the Yucatan and clear down into Guatemala come to Coba. So it's like everything came to Coba and then came out here to Tulum. The thinking is that Christ maybe even appeared here after to some Nephites. Or at a very minimum, they came here and worshipped him, and as a group kind of had their beliefs that they carried on. These guys like to say they were Nephites, but most of my Lamanite friends that get blessing, my Mexican friends, are all Manasseh. So I mean, it's a little wishful thinking, whatever. Might have been righteous Lamanites, might have been some Nephites, might have been people that just didn't want to deny Christ, did, but then snuck off and come over here and set up their colony. Yes, the Mayans used a lot the symbol of the red hands on top of each other to do some priesthood ordinance.
Yeah, there's a priesthood. Oh, yeah.
Like the healing ordinance, the blessing or something. Okay, that was called an eye of the needle, or the eye of the camel. And it was where the camels had come in. They'd raise it up so the tall camel could come through it. I mean, that little top part. He says that's where the parable, it's easier to get into heaven than a camel to pass through the gate in the eye of a needle, which is what they call that. Build fires behind those. And even come into this side at night and find that opening, because the way those windows had to be aligned to find the opening. So, and the guides will say that from Cancun clear to Honduras, this is the highest spot on the coast. Protected from hurricanes. It's up, see what ruins buildings in a hurricane. If the winds don't get them, then the tidal wave does. It comes in after. It's the best port you could find anywhere from Honduras to Cancun, and here's where they built Tulum. And then they had to have a way to get out in the ocean. They found it. The reason there's a beach out there is because of these wells are pushing fresh water out, and the corals don't grow in fresh water. So it keeps the corals from growing, which keeps the reef from growing, which makes a breach so you bring them over.
Quite a large fish.
All by itself. Can you see it pretty good?
To me, this site was the most interesting and beautiful of all.
There's still some Mexican factor. Comes off. No water.